Hey guys, welcome back to another impressions video, and today I'm going to talk about this game right here, Kirby Triple Deluxe for the Nintendo 3DS. A 2014 release and another game in the Kirby series, and recently I made an impressions video on Kirby's Epic Yarn for the Nintendo Wii. A game that I had a lot of fun with, but that game felt very different from your typical Kirby game. However, Kirby Triple Deluxe goes back to the classic Kirby formula. This is essentially a action-adventure, side-scrolling platformer with some slide puzzle elements thrown into the gameplay, and it follows the same typical gameplay in which you can suck up your enemies and then copy their abilities to defeat other enemies and so on. So despite being another traditional and classic type of Kirby game, I have to say that Nintendo did a great job, because this is in my personal opinion, this is in my top 3 Kirby games released so far. I had a lot of fun with this game. I thought that the level design was pretty clever. The puzzle solving was easy but very enjoyable at the same time. And the game does offer a bunch of other features that keep the game a little bit fresh, in the sense of replay value and adding other types of mini games that will keep you busy. As you probably know, this being a traditional or classic Kirby game, it is a short game. It is a very easy game. It only picks up in difficulty at the very end, but even then, it's not a very hard game at all. So it does keep those, I guess, classic features from other Kirby games, in the sense that it's easy and it's short. But like I said, the game offers some other added games or mini games, such as Kirby, I think it's called Kirby Fighter, which is a Smash Brothers clone. Very interesting take in which you can play with different Kirby characters with different power-up abilities. So you may have the sword Kirby with the sword, or the ninja Kirby that can shoot ninja stars, or you may have the fire Kirby that shoots fireballs and so on. So it's a Smash Brothers clone. It's a little bit different because instead of raising the percentage of your opponent and knocking him off the stage, this is a more traditional fighter. Your opponents have a life bar, and you just have to deplete that to win the rounds. But up to 4 different Kirbys can be on the screen at the same time. So it's a really interesting and just fresh take, if you will, and it's a poor man's Smash Brothers clone, but nevertheless it offers a little bit of variation in the gameplay. And there's also this other mini game called DDD's Drum Dash, I believe, which is a rhythm side-scrolling platformer in which you have to jump and perform different functions on the sound of the drums. And you play with King DDD, which is another long-time character in the Kirby series. And after you beat the game, you unlock a new adventure or single-player mode in which you can play with King DDD, and that game mode encourages you to do a speed run through the game. And of course, you use King DDD, which is more powerful. He has his hammer in hand. So again, it offers a little bit of variation. It offers a replay value, and on top of that, the game has collectibles, which me personally, I found them to be very entertaining to go after. The game has keychain collectibles, which are sprites of previous Kirby games from the Game Boy, from the NES, from the Super NES. Previous Kirby game sprites, which are collectibles. They're hidden in the levels. So if you have a good eye and a good intuition, if you have played many platformers like myself, I love platformers, so I do have that intuition of being good at looking in the levels and kind of find out when there's a secret. So when you find the secrets, you find a keychain and it goes into your collection, and it's just fun collecting them, and it adds that little extra value or replay value, if you will. If you don't collect all the keychains in the level, you can always go back. You also have to collect sunstones in the game, not only to be a completionist, but to unlock the boss fights at the end of each world. So it's important to keep an eye for the sunstones. Those are a little bit easier to collect than the keychains because they're a little bit more obvious, but you do have to solve from time to time puzzles, which are very well implemented, and they complement the side-scrolling platforming gameplay very, very well. None of the puzzles in the game are very hard to figure it out. In fact, I never got stuck on any of them, but they're very clever, and the way that the game makes you think to solve them, I think it's pretty clever, and I had fun solving the puzzles, even though they were pretty easy for the most part. It was a good change of pace with the action and the platforming of the typical gameplay of Kirby games. So the level design, very good. It does encourage sometimes a little bit of backtracking, which is a little bit of a somewhat of a staple in the Kirby games. It also gives you branching, what it may look like branching paths. At one point you may reach a part where there's 2 doors, so you have to kind of guess which one it'll be the best door to go to first, and you may go and get a sunstone in one door and then could come back to the other one and proceed regularly throughout the level. So the game does offer a very, very solid level design. As far as the story, which I usually talk about the story first in the games, but there's not a whole lot to talk about other than you do play on like a new world, and you do face a new boss character that I believe was not present in any of the previous games. This is a brand new villain in the Kirby universe. So that's about the story. You just have to defeat and bring back Dreamland to its best, to former shape, if you will. And you have to rescue King Dedede, which was hypnotized by this new villain. So that's the story. The graphics are good, and that's about it. There's nothing extremely impressive about the graphics, and that's okay because it's a Kirby game. The game is very colorful. The game runs pretty well, which is expected because the game is not very demanding on graphics wise. The 3D effect, I have to say, is not very impressive. It's very similar to the Yoshi's New Island 3D effect, where the effect is very mild. You really have to crank the 3D slider all the way up to notice any differences. But it does help a little bit because the game, this is essentially a 2.5D or side-scrolling game. You can switch planes every now and then. You hit a cannon that sends you to the back of the scrolling screen, and so there are different layers that you can jump back and forth in the game, and that's when the 3D effect really offers some kind of value, in my opinion. But nothing too critical. If you don't like the 3D effect, you can turn it off and enjoy this game just as much as any other person would. And like I said, you really have to crank that 3D slider all the way up to see any noticeable difference in the effect. And because the 3D effect is very mild, I do have to say that it's very easy on the eyes. Games like Resident Evil Revelations, when you crank the 3D effect all the way up, I can play the game, the effect is good, but after 10-15 minutes your eyes become like very strained. But with Kirby, the effect is always very soft, very mild, and it doesn't affect if you leave it on all the time. So very decent graphics. The soundtrack, obviously, Kirby games have a very good track record on good soundtracks, and this game is no different to that feature. Very solid soundtrack, although I do have to say that it's not quite on par with the soundtrack of Epic Yarn, which I absolutely loved that soundtrack. But a very solid soundtrack, okay graphics, excellent level design, a lot of, I wouldn't say a lot of replay value, but enough replay value to overcome that short single player campaign. A lot of unlockables that will keep you coming back if you're a big Kirby fan, to unlock all the keychains and whatnot. and I think it also has a boss rush mode at the end that you can unlock. So overall, it took me, I would say, around 7 hours, I think, to beat the game, or maybe less, maybe 6 or 7 hours. I can't quite remember, but short game, but very pleasant, and it does have enough features to keep you busy other than the single player mode. So Kirby Triple Deluxe, a very fun game. I'm really glad I gave this game a shot. I'm definitely gonna go back to it to see if I can collect all the keychains, but I had a fantastic time with this game. If you enjoyed Kirby games, you have to have this game on your 3DS, period. I think it's one of the most solid entries, thanks to its very solid level design, thanks to its cute and charming, presentation. I think this is definitely a must-have for all Kirby fans that own a Nintendo 3DS. So that's it for now. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you all later.